at Dara, heading our Climate Vulnerability Initiative. It's our climate change work. We're a research institution based in Madrid. We do a range of research and technical assistance to governments in developing countries on climate change issues. For me, I mean, climate change is absent from the Rio agenda quite clearly. The main substantive paragraphs and the outcome texts that are there fall below issues like sustainable tourism, for instance. There's nothing actually contained in the text apart from the fact that there needs to be more collaboration to work towards resolving issues in the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change arena, setting up the Green Climate Fund, which are already commitments in other fora, so there's absolutely no added value. I think, you know, it's a major shame because sustainable development is actually, it's older than original Rio, the Earth Summit. It dates back to Stockholm in the 1970s, and then there was the Brundtland Report building up through the 80s. What Rio, the original Rio, launched was really putting climate change in the center of the future sustainable development issues from a perspective of 20 years ago. That set up the UNFCCC, which has delivered nothing adequate at the moment in terms of tackling the problem. It is already one of the most significant challenges for sustainable development. The impacts of climate change are really seriously holding back development progress. We see those countries that are worst affected are also those countries with slowest progress towards the MDGs, Millennium Development Goals. In that context, climate change is accelerating, emissions are accelerating, consumptions of fossil fuels are accelerating. If you look at any major institution that is projecting energy requirements through to the next 20 years or 15 years, in every single case fossil fuels increases by 20, 30, 40, 50, 60%. That's the reality of the infrastructure of the world economy, the structure of the world economy at the moment. And what that means is that not only the climate change we're committed to will take place, but it's also likely to get worse, and that change is in any case accelerating. The impacts in 15 years' time will be, in some cases, several times greater than they are at the moment. That means that when the Sustainable Development Goals that are being, the process to which, you know, defining those, which is beginning here in Rio and before, through the negotiations leading up to here, those goals in probably, I guess, 2030, when they might finish, if they're anything similar, or 2025 to the MDGs, I mean, they will be finishing at a time when climate change is going to be much more significant. It will be a much bigger impediment. It will become the most important constraint to development progress for the world's poorest groups. And so it's bizarre to not include that in any serious way whatsoever in the entire Rio Agenda process. And that's what the Climate Vulnerable Forum, the side event we just attended with several ministers from countries that are heavily affected by climate change, from Latin America, Asia, etc. That's what they want to see change. They want to see climate vulnerability come in to the Rio Agenda so that that is taken into account. If it's not taken into account, if it's not mainstreamed through development policies of the international community, be it donors, the UN system, international finance institutions, etc., it's simply not going to be taken account of, and the losses will be incurred, the progress will not be achieved, and we will be staring at another failure of international development. I think you know, it's probably the reason why it is not there is because it's the hardest issue to get progress on at the moment. There's no traction at all in the United States. There's a global financial crisis going on still in developed countries who are trying to take leadership, like in Europe. There are many very big questions, impediments that are stopping progress. So if they were going to put it seriously into the Rio Agenda, it probably would have failed. Because at this stage there's not the wherewithal, the willingness, the political will to actually do something. So they would have condemned Rio by putting it in. So maybe it was a smart move in a tactical sense for that reason, but at the same time they also condemn Rio by not putting it in. So it's a catch-22.
Right. I think that was awesome, and that'll work. Thank you.